The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt heavy. Like the air itself was holding its breath. The living room was bathed in the soft glow of a single light spilling over the worn leather couch, and the coffee table cluttered with half-empty mugs and a stack of unread books. It was a cozy space, the kind of place where memories were supposed to be made: movie nights, lazy Sundays, whispered conversations late into the night. But tonight, the room felt hollow, as if the walls themselves knew something was wrong. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, my fingers absently tracing the rim of a cold coffee cup. Across from me, Emma was curled up in the armchair, her legs tucked beneath her, her eyes fixed on her phone. She was smiling, a small, secretive smile that didn't reach her eyes. I couldn't remember the last time she'd smiled at me like that. "You're quiet tonight," I said. Breaking the silence, my voice sounded strange, like it didn't belong in the room. Emma glanced up, her smile fading. "Just tired," she said, her tone dismissive. She went back to her phone, her fingers tapping rapidly against the screen. I wanted to say more, to ask her what was wrong, why she'd been so distant lately, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I watched my chest tightening with a growing sense of unease. Something was off. I could feel it in the way she avoided my gaze, in the way she'd started coming home late, in the way she'd stopped wearing the necklace I'd given her for our anniversary. But I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things. After all, this was Emma, my Emma. The woman I'd loved for 5 years, the woman who'd stood by me through everything. She wouldn't betray me. She couldn't. The first real clue came a week later. I was cleaning up the living room, trying to distract myself from the growing tension between us, when I found it, a crumpled receipt between the cushions of the couch. It was from a fancy restaurant downtown, one of those places with candlelit tables and overpriced wine. The date on the receipt was from 2 nights ago, a night Emma had told me she was working late. My hand shook as I stared at the receipt, my mind racing. Who had she been with? Why had she lied? I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I tucked the receipt into my pocket and tried to push the thoughts from my mind. But the doubts kept creeping in, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. I started noticing other things. The way she'd started dressing up more. The way she'd suddenly developed a habit of taking her phone with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. And then there were the late-night messages, the ones that made her laugh in that soft, secretive way that used to be reserved for me. I couldn't take it anymore. One night, after Emma had fallen asleep, I crept into the living room and picked up her phone. My heart pounded as I typed in our anniversary, a detail she hadn't bothered to change, and opened her messages. What I found shattered me. There in black and white were the proof of her betrayal. Messages upon messages, each one more damning than the last. They were from Mark, the guy I'd known since college, the guy I trusted with my life. The messages were filled with flirtatious banter, inside jokes, and plans for secret meets. And then, there were the photos. Intimate, explicit photos that made my stomach churn. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the messages, each one a knife to the heart. How long had this been going on? How could they do this to me? I wanted to scream, to break something, to storm into the bedroom and demand answers, but I didn't. Instead, I put the phone back on the coffee table and sank onto the couch, my mind racing. I couldn't confront them, not yet. I needed proof, something undeniable. And I needed a plan. The confrontation happened a week later. I've been following Emma for days, tracking her movements, gathering evidence. I knew where she was going that night, a hotel downtown, the same one she'd been meeting Mark at for weeks. I waited outside, my heart pounding, until I saw them together. They were laughing, their arms wrapped around each other, completely oblivious to the world around them. I followed them inside, my anger boiling over when I reached their room. I didn't knock. I kicked the door open, the sound of splintering wood echoing through the hallway. Emma and Mark froze, their eyes wide with shock. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Emma stepped forward, her face pale. "James, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What am I doing here?" I repeated, my voice shaking with rage. "I think the better question is, what are you doing here?" Mark stepped forward, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "James, man, calm down. Let's talk about this. Talk about what I spat. How you've been screwing my wife behind my back. How you've been lying to me for months." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "James, please," she begged. "It's not what you think." "Don't," I snapped, cutting her off. "Don't insult me by lying to my face. I've seen the messages. I know everything." Mark's expression hardened. "Look, James, I get that you're upset, but you need to calm down. This isn't the way to handle things. Calm down," I repeated, my voice rising. "You think I'm going to calm down after what you've done? You're my best friend, Mark. My best friend. And you." I turned to Emma, my heart breaking all over again. "You're my wife. How could you do this to me?" Emma opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, she just stood there, tears streaming down her face. Mark stepped forward again, his expression darkening. "James, you need to leave," he said, his voice low and threatening. "Before this gets ugly." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "It's already ugly," I said. "But don't worry. I'm not going to do anything stupid. Not yet." I turned and walked out, leaving them standing there, in stunned silence. But, as I walked away, I knew one thing for certain: this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The days that followed were a blur of anger, heartbreak, and determination. I threw myself into planning my revenge, channeling all my pain into a single focused goal: to make them pay. I started by gathering more evidence, photos, videos, anything I could use to expose them. I hired a private investigator to dig into their lives, uncovering every dirty secret, every lie. I wanted to destroy them, to ruin their lives, the way they'd ruined mine. But I didn't stop there. I also started planning something bigger, something more public. I wanted to humiliate them, to make sure everyone knew what they'd done. And I knew exactly how to do it. The day of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the kind of day that was supposed to be perfect. The church was packed with friends and family, all gathered to celebrate the union of Emma and Mark. But as I sat in the back row, watching them exchange vows, I felt nothing but cold, hard determination. When the priest asked if anyone had any objections, I stood up. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to me. "Before you say I do," I said, my voice ringing out, "there's something you need to know." Emma's face went white. Mark's expression darkened. But I didn't care. I pulled out the folder I'd been carrying and began to read every message, every photo, every dirty secret. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. But I didn't stop. I kept going, exposing every lie, every betrayal. By the time I was done, the room was in chaos. Emma was crying, Mark was shouting, and the guests were in shock. But I didn't care. I'd gotten my revenge. As I walked out of the church, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. They thought they could betray me and get away with it. But they were wrong. And as I walked away, I knew one thing for certain: some betrayals don't break us, they build us into something stronger. What would you have done in this situation? Do you think justice was served? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales of betrayal and revenge.